reflection sets the stage to turn the page. At the raising of the curtain, I am hurting and uncertain of the parts that we have played. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Why must the show go on? Must I sing this song again? Fading out of the close-up, everybody's reeling, no concealing. Your beauty is seed stealing. Violins are singing, sunset's waiting, radiating. Your entrance is breathtaking. Why must the show go on? I can't say these lines again. Why must the show go on? Must I sing this song again?
Everybody, Drew here from Four Wall. Welcome. This is the final episode of the year with a panel. We do have a holiday special that's just going to be a fun episode next weekend. But this is the last one of the year. 90 plus guests, which is crazy. I was going through the full list of names, and to see everybody that we've had on, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for being on, including our guests that are coming on tonight. And also, I'd like to thank Jeff for dedicating his Sundays for the last 9 months to doing this show. And we really, for myself and Four Wall, we really appreciate Jeff taking the time to do this. And also Al Rodella, who joins us in the green room every Sunday and is a big part of getting the guests for the show. And we really appreciate his time as well. Putting a panel together of four, at the beginning, it was like, okay, we have a lot of names. And then once we started getting into it, then we really spent a lot of time putting these panels together. And I just wanted to thank Al and Jeff for that. So thank you again. And I am joined once again by, I didn't want to bring him on while I was saying that because I didn't want to see him blush, but now let's bring him on.
I'm totally blushing, see? Or it's warm here. Drew, thank you so much. That's very nice to say. Right back at you.
90 yes, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know, 94. It is pretty crazy. Most of them I even like. No, I'm kidding. I like them all. Thank you. Thank Four Wall and Drew. It's been great to get to know you personally, and it's been great working with you. And it has been fun and exciting putting these together every week to find who we get. And I have learned something from so many of these panelists. So it's been great being sitting here in a front row seat.
Definitely.
And it's funny. I don't know if this happens to everyone who's watching, but I've realized now over the last few weeks, when we start, your feed freezes. Maybe it's just to me. So I have this like panic. Like you say 2 words, totally freezes, nothing happens, and then you come back. So I actually don't know what you said in the beginning. I assume it's gone out, or someone would have told us that happens every week. So I'm just going to let it go from now on and be like, it's just the way it is.
Well, let's see. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone who's watching, as always. Another thank you to Chris Barron for letting us use his song. And I want to give his Thirsty Thursday show a little plug. Chris Barron of the Spin Doctors gave us the song to use, Why Must the Show Go On? And he does a weekly show on stageit.com, 4:30 on Thursdays. Stage It is a great way to watch and listen to music and support musicians since they can't gig during this time. And Drew, it's too bad there isn't a Stage It for lighting designers during COVID, because people could watch me live talk to my Alexa about the level of my outside light.
I was gonna say, maybe you should do one. Weren't you doing something with your tree?
With my string lights above my deck. I was writing light cues the other day, like keeping myself sharp. How was your week? Did you have a good week? How's everyone?
It was good. I decided to wear my Brent Sellers said "Love the Nation" sweatshirt.
There you go.
Well, they were down by 7. I just looked, and they're like getting killed by 21 points now, so I should probably take it off.
Yeah. Well, the Giants didn't show up today. Somehow they didn't. I didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. Really, not the greatest showing for the New York Football Giants. Really quick before we introduce our guest, there's one thing we should talk about. It's once again time to push your representatives in Washington to pass a stimulus bill. It doesn't need any explanation from our part at this point. Everyone should know and understand why it's important. It's really important. Also, with the great news about the vaccine approval, everyone actually has to take the shot. I heard the story, but didn't think it was actually real until I actually heard someone on the radio say that they weren't taking the vaccine because they thought they would be tracked by the government. And, first off, that's ridiculous. And second, we're all being tracked anyway. You have one of these. And maybe I'm not the right person to, I would let them put a chip in my heel if it got me onto the subway faster. So I'm probably not the best person to say, but, we'll open everything faster if everyone is vaccinated. Our guest, they're working, have worked, or about to work on a holiday show. This is a recurring gig for some of them. So let's find out what they're up to and find out why this year's different.
All right. Well, our first guest is Michael Archibald, the AV admin for the Brooklyn Tabernacle, and the job that we're going to kind of talk about is the Joy to the World. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here, guys.
Michael.
Awesome. And second is a lighting designer and programmer, Darien Koop, who's working on a gig at the Nashville Speedway, Jingle Beat. Darien, who's actually there right now with the show going on in the background. So that's a first. That's a show first.
It is a first. Wow.
Yeah.
And
what is happening behind you?
It's all happening behind me.
That's
okay. We'll get there.
Yeah. Our third is Paul Miller, lighting designer, who is working on the New Year's Eve Times Square. I'm really interested to hear what that is. He's probably been on 1,000 Zoom calls, I believe. Paul, thank you so much.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
It looks like for a second I thought you were talking to us from outer space, but it looks really cool.
Well, so far, I had mentioned it earlier to both Paul and Darien, but these are the best backgrounds I've seen on the show. So congratulations. And last and certainly not least, Chris Werner, lighting designer for Chris Werner Design. And he is the lighting designer for Saks Lights at Fifth Avenue. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this.
Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
Last one in, first one up. Chris, we're going to start with you. As we just mentioned, you're all either working, have worked, or about to work on a holiday show. So to kick us off, can you tell us what you're doing, Chris, or what you have done? Just the brief for now, what, where, and when.
Sure. Currently, most recently, I should say, was the Saks Fifth Avenue Holiday Show. I've been doing that for a couple of years. Before that, in non-COVID times, the before times, piles and piles of Christmas review shows, often theme parks and showboats, and light shows for corporate events related to the holidays.
Cool. Paul Miller.
Hey, that's me. Yeah, I'm the lighting director. This is my 20th year for New Year's Eve in Times Square. And pretty much I'm responsible for it's about 5 hours of live television across 4, maybe 5 networks, and every outdoor performance and various other hits are across 3, sometimes 4 stages are my responsibilities. So we're in the thick of it this week.
Yeah, sure. More details on all of this stuff in a moment. This is just getting our feet wet. Michael, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for this year putting together our Christmas production. Usually in years past, it's thousands of people who come through our doors. This year is a little different. We had to just pull pieces together, do different video shoots in the sanctuary, as well as different places in New York City. And yeah, we're going to edit it and just have it live stream.
Yeah. And Darren, what's happening? What's happening there?
Currently, I am working on a Jingle Beat here in Nashville, Tennessee. It is a drive-through experience. It's the next level. We did an iteration of this about 2 months ago called Tempo. The whole thing was put together by Eric Anderson at Core Design. And he brought myself, Bobby Gray, into this whole thing. And yeah, so we've just been kind of slamming it together. About 3.5 weeks ago, we got the go-ahead and started moving this whole thing forward. Prior to that, I've got about 15, 16 years toured as a lighting director. Primarily now, I offer myself as designer support services, doing programming, drafting, renderings, and then I design a bit in addition to that. So there you go.
Cool. Well, answered our next question, but Drew, go right ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, Darien, great segue. But can you just dive in a little more to what you do normally and some projects that you have worked on?
Yeah, fair enough. Actually, at the beginning of this year, it was kind of interesting. My last project leading into this was Billie Eilish with Tony Caparelli. I was his associate lighting designer on that. And Tony's actually on this project. He programmed lasers with us with image engineering. And so, yeah, we did that. And then I kind of do a lot of that. I bounce between programming. Before that, I actually was the designer for Lana Del Rey earlier this year. Did some work with Gambino, and then I do a lot of stuff for other designers.
Cool, awesome. Well, when we solo you up right there, I gotta remind myself to look at you and not your screen and stuff. Actually.
I know. Yeah.
The kids love it.
Yeah. Chris, what about you? What's like your normal before? What do you do normally?
Some years more successfully than others. I try to find that balance between architecture and entertainment, and a little TV or film in there. So it's a little lighting design, a little video or content design for architainment if it happens to be the thing I can do. So that means some theme parks, some cruise ships. I was on a cruise ship when this all went south in March. We kind of fled a ship and raced home and locked down right in this lovely office. That's kind of what I do.
Awesome. And Paul?
I'm mostly a theater guy most of the time, a little bit of Broadway and off-Broadway and national tours. I do a fair number of like Netflix comedy specials, 6 or 7 or 8 of those a year. New Year's Eve is a little bit, that kind of special event is a little bit of an outlier for me, but I'm mostly a theater guy.
That's amazing. I've seen so many of those comedy specials, Paul, and I had no idea. Like, I never really get to the end of it. No offense to the comedian, to know who the lighting designer was.
There's a television director whose name is also Paul Miller, and it's a little confusing if you go to IMDb. Our credits are sort of commingled. It's a little confusing, but yeah, I've probably done 20 or 30 of them in the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, they look great. I always notice that the design, all of it, the design is always
for One Day Wonders. Yeah, they're fun. It's efficient.
Well, if you ever need an assistant, you know where to find me.
Nice. And Michael, tell us a little bit about what's your normal. What you normally do.
Okay, so I am going on 39th year as the drummer for the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir and Church, as well as I head up the AV ministry at the church. We basically record every week the services, as well as Tuesdays. We do tours, travel all over the country and abroad, as well as we do in-house productions at the church. On a Sunday, we get about 10,000 people go through our doors on a normal Sunday.
Did you say you were the drummer?
Yeah, I've been the drummer for 39 years.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's so cool. Also, my brother's a drummer by trade, professionally.
Really?
So yeah, that's amazing. Well, you'll have to come back on the show and do a drum solo for us. Like, talk Chris Barron out one show. Chris, let's jump to you. Where are you? Did you say this already? Where are you speaking to us from?
From Los Angeles. I'm in Burbank.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. So what was the beginning of your career? How did it start for you? How did you get into lighting? And what was your path to where you are now, pre-COVID now, not like now?
Sure. Much like many people, my pain and pleasure started in high school.
Yeah.
I went to Carnegie Mellon to study. As soon as I left there, I decided architecture was the path, architectural lighting specifically. So I went to Focus Lighting in New York. I spent a couple years there. I ended up leaving design a little bit as sort of a full-time job and going down the path of R&D. I ran R&D for a tiny LED manufacturer for just a bit. I was doing side gigs, designing projects until the vacation time ran out. When I couldn't escape for enough vacation time to go do these side projects, it was time to strike out on my own. So that was 2006, I guess. Like Paul Miller said, I also have an IMDb doppelganger. His name is Chris Werner. I received a congratulatory message from the Academy, the Television Academy this year, for my Emmy nomination. Very exciting.
I bet.
Unfortunately, it wasn't me.
That must have been so strange. You're like, yes, but wait a minute.
Last week tonight, you say? I had nothing to do with that. The other Chris Werner.
To Chris Werner, congratulations. What does the other Chris Werner do?
He's a director and an associate producer or producer on the Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. He's got a cool gig and does great work. He's definitely making the rest of us Chris Werners look pretty good.
Yes. Michael, do you have anyone else with the same name as you who is on IMDb as well?
Nope.
How did you get to? How did you move from drummer to the head of AV?
Well, our church is very different than I think a lot of normal churches. Being our AV department consists of basically three people: myself, a front of house sound guy, and I had a guy working with me for several years named Ricardo Lizama, who actually went to school for a lot of the lighting and programming and design. He has since relocated to Arizona, and then I started to just outsource with different guys. New York City has a ton of programmers and designers. One of the things early on in I would say my career is I've been able to meet very talented people. There was a guy, I don't know if you guys remember Demphis Fisikopoulos.
No, I don't. Anyone else on the panel know? No.
He was a lighting designer, programmer for the Michael Jackson tour, as well as Maroon 5. And cool. He actually worked with us early on when we opened up our sanctuary. He showed us how to work on the Grand MA and gave us a couple of lessons. So, I'm not as schooled in lighting, but I've surrounded myself with very talented people, like right now. So.
Well, that's the key to life. Surround yourself with very talented people. Darren, how did you? Where did your beginnings come from?
Oof. I circled around quite a bit. I moved to Nashville in 2007. I was already in the industry working for a couple production companies. But then in 2007, I made the jump here and met up with a guy named Jeff LaValle, and we did a few things together, some of my early tours with Mute Math, and through that then transitioned. I was Luke Bryan's first LD and designer, and that got me into country and then out of country because I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, which then got me into pop. And between pop and R&B, it's kind of been there ever since. Sooner, Ruthier had a big hand in getting me going on the weekend. I did the Starboy tour with her.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few key people here in town that have definitely pushed me forward. Corey Fitzgerald's another one who's definitely given me quite a bit of a push.
I love that the names you're dropping have been guests on the Four Wall Sunday Roundtable.
I'm mildly doing that on purpose.
Well done.
Shout out Sooner. Shout out Corey.
Yeah.
Paul, it's your turn. How did it start?
Yeah, I was a piano major actually in my previous life. Since a very young kid, I was on a path. My dream, I think, was to be a conductor, maybe conduct at the Met. Somewhere along the line, I realized that my modest talent would require an awful lot of work and time alone, and so I, somewhat by default, I ended up what was at the time known as the Goodman School of Drama, now the Theater School at DePaul University, as a set designer, and then sort of segued into lighting. I came to New York in the 80s and did a great deal of Theater of the Black Cube and coffee can light for many years, and really sort of stumbled into assisting. I mean, I was really well into my 20s probably before I sort of fell into assisting at any sort of level. So it was a roundabout path a little bit.
Is it accurate to say that you came up as an assistant in the Broadway world, or was it?
I think probably in the Broadway world, that's true. I mean, I was doing, okay. I was quite busy and doing regional theater and doing stuff, in the city downtown below Houston Street.
When there was
sort of a random, happenstance meeting that sort of led me to an assisting career. But I had a pretty established, at a certain level, design career of my own. So assisting was sort of a little sidetrack, but certainly that's what led me to working at a higher level by the time I got to my 30s, I guess.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Paul, I'll stick with you. I mean, you mentioned earlier that you've been working on the Times Square or New Year's Eve Times Square show for how many years?
This is my 20th year.
20th year.
Unbelievable.
So just if you can just give us, tell us, what you do, and how that's going for you right now, and how has it changed over that 20-year span?
It's pretty amazing how much it's changed actually. When I was I was hired by what at the time was the World Feed Director after the millennium, and I was brought in to bring sort of a theatrical sensibility to sort of the proceedings. That first year, my responsibilities, we had like a little 10-foot stage that I think had some MR16 strip lights on it and some par cans on sticks. And it was a very modest, all of the other networks that were doing performances outside, live performances outside, each had their own infrastructure, their own broadcast camera lighting infrastructure that basically I ran around Times Square and asked people to point their 10Ks out of those people's cameras and lit a couple little numbers on our little stage. Over time, this is it's all kind of been combined into one big sort of shared resource. So however many stages we might have, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, are all used, the lighting rig, my services, the broadcast infrastructure, the truck, we have 22 cameras on the whole show, are used by each of the 4 or 5 networks that have some element over the course of 5 hours. So now I'm responsible for between 12 and 16 performances across, ABC, Univision, anybody that does anything outside, including we do a thing called the World Feed, which is a live cut 22 camera show that uses performances that are in normal years just for the people, the spectators that are in Times Square.
Right.
But that feed is available to the planet to patch into. I think the reality is that most outlets, grab the last 30 seconds, probably the countdown and the fireworks.
Yeah.
But it's a solid 5 hours sort of back to back of
Yeah.
uses at this point.
Incredible. And Chris, what about
Tiny
you?
job.
Yeah. Yeah. And Chris, what about you for Sax Fifth? Just what's the history? How you got involved with that?
Sure. I was fortunate enough to work on the first iteration, which was 2004. In 2004, Sax wanted to make a gift to the city, so we created this holiday light show. It was literally the first project of my first full-time job outside of college, and probably one of the coolest. So we did a what is now a really simple display of blue and white LEDs. That's all it could do. They could dim up and down, and there were snowflakes on the facade. And we did a Carol of the Bells medley. In 2015, they decided to do a revamp, and I had the company long left New York. I had a chance to bid on it, so I did. I got that gig. So this year is our 6th year. It's the same core team. We're a tiny little team, mostly so we can, kind of deal with all the little fires that come up. But we do lighting design and content creation for a huge pixel map display. Drew, I think you've got a bunch of images.
I got the 2020 version here.
Yeah, this is what we just opened on November 23rd. Totally different method of opening it than we used to do things. One, we got a little more technology behind us, so it was easier to do as far as remote programming, remote being across the street, not being across the country. However, we had a lot of limitations as far as crew size on site and how we were interacting with each other.
Which we will get to that. We're going to get to,
all right, I'll pause on
to those. We're going to get to those for sure, Chris. And Darien, tell us a little bit about Jingle Beat. You kind of mentioned how the people who are involved, but just tell us about the actual, if you were to go to Nashville right now, like what would we expect? And how much work took into putting it together?
Right. This whole project is pretty fascinating. I got brought in originally on Tempo pretty late in the game. They'd been working on it for months. Like I said, Eric Anderson and Gordon Droitker of Core Design. It was kind of Eric's baby. And so this time, like I said, about 3.5 weeks ago, we got the full go-ahead to start making this thing happen. Luckily, we had the full blueprint of our original project to be able to kind of move forward from. I guess at this point, what's great is that at least for in the area, there's no other project like this. People are getting to actually come through and blend this sense of live show with a holiday feel versus the other drive-thrus that are currently happening, at least in our area, is just Christmas lights and all of that, which is fine. It's great, but this gives the viewers a bit more of the live show feel.
So are there performers, Darren? Or
not on this show. We have talked about bringing elves. We've talked about even doing a performance type piece because cars are driving through it at all times, but we're still figuring out the logistics of that.
So it is a light show though, and music or
Yeah, so the whole track, Claire actually brought in, we've got a stadium's worth of PA lining the entire course. And then we had a custom track made. It's a remix of kind of the most popular Christmas songs, some unpopular ones that are all set to a beat. We have tempos for each section. It's a little bit electronic style, but something that fits everybody.
Yeah. And Chris, sorry, just to go back to you. Are there performers at the Sax show, or is it the facade that lights up? Are there humans?
Facade and then the windows are the big stars. On opening night in the past, there used to be some sort of performance or dance of some kind or song. No more, not this year at least.
Well, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but before I go to you, Michael, I'm just going to bring up some photos from Paul's. These are from last year, of which I'm pretty sure everybody probably watches this on New Year's Eve. Little Post Malone. So Michael, just tell me about the show that the Christmas show that you work on.
So every year we usually do 2 major shows, Easter and Christmas. Usually it consists of about 100 volunteers acting, drama, dancing, lighting, the choir sometimes in it, and sometimes we have a smaller group singing. We usually, like I said, do about 8 to 10 shows during the Christmas season. And like I said, about 10,000 people fill our sanctuary. This year, we are doing everything remotely, meaning we have been closed since March. So what we've done is I was able to bring the choir in 4 at a time on the stage, 12 feet apart, green screen, and I've been recording them video-wise. We've had dances on the stage, rented some backdrops from Rosebrand, as well as we went on the rooftop, did some singing, again, social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we're just going to put that together, and we're going to live stream the whole production.
When's the target?
I believe it's the 20th of December.
Great. Everyone, mark it in your calendars. Just by a yes or no answer, is the show the same every year, Michael? Is the show the same every year, or is it different every year? It's a brand new show year over year. And Paul, yours is different every year, I take it.
Yeah.
And Chris,
Somewhat different.
yeah, and Darien,
First time. First
brand new,
year.
first time you've ever done it.
Hopefully, we'll do it more years.
And you think is the idea that it's different every year, or do you not know that yet? Do you bring back this model?
There's certainly something special about the particular model that we have right now. I
Mhm.
would say that a lot of that is also contingent on the venue itself. So we're able to really utilize this racetrack and spread out and fill the entire thing. So we've also designed and built custom modules around what's here and
Sure.
what works with that. So certainly as this thing moves forward and the talks of throwing it on tour and having other locations, that's going to have to morph and become something else. And in addition, I mean, coming back to it next year, I would assume, we'll see the next version, next iteration of whatever this is.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Michael, you mentioned safety protocols a little bit and people standing 6 or 12 feet apart. Who set those protocols? Who set the guidelines for you?
Well, we follow the CDC as well as our HR department. Currently, we have an app that we have to fill out before we enter the building. We don't fill that out. We do not get into the building. It's that serious. Even my monitor person, she didn't get the email. She had to wait. Security did not let her in the building.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But there's no bubble. You're not quarantined with each other. You all go home every night and come back into work the next day. It's not that sort of.
Well, our building actually has been closed. I mean, we've just basically started having limited staff come in, but for the most part, it's project based.
Yeah.
Now.
Got it. And Darien, how about you guys? Are there particular protocols in place?
Oh yeah, we actually have Vanderbilt on site. They're the local college, university medical center in town, and then we have our COVID compliance officer. So we have a strict limited amount of people that are allowed on site every day, and then in addition, when we all arrive, there's a standard check-in, health questionnaire. Everybody gets their temperature check, and then we all get a wristband for those of us that are there. I'm in my own office right now, so I'm not wearing a mask. Production is next to me. Catering is next to me here, of which is one person. Outside of that, we take consistent testing. Everybody has to turn in a negative test to be able to keep going. And then they also keep us in cells on site. So there's only, if you're going to work directly with another person, you're not working with more than 3 other people. And then you're obviously encouraged and meant to distance within that group.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. It's nice to hear. Organized. Chris, how about your situation on the streets of New York City, taking an outdoor show?
Yeah, well, we were benefiting from the fact that we work mostly at night. So we interface with not as many people as we normally would. We're kind of a small team. 3 groups of folks are putting this on. So there's a team from Four Wall, New York. There's a team from American Christmas, an AMA, the rigging company, and then my team. And each of us, I think the biggest group is 6 people. So basically, we kind of all internally handled our own situation. for my team, we tested before and after we got there. We tested every couple of days while we were there. I showed up a bit early so we could do the New York quarantine and testing. We didn't have an on-site officer. Like many of the shows that are happening out here in California and many of the shows starting up in New York, there wasn't a person that managed that process for us. We all took it on ourselves.
Got it. Cool. Paul, you haven't done it yet, but what are the best laid plans?
Yeah, well, it's still a little bit of a moving target. We're being sent testing kits. We have to test at home. I think 24 hours out and 72 hours out. We're going to be tested every day. We're quite a large group, actually. Once the full complement is on, starting around the 26th to the 27th, it's hundreds of people.
Sure.
30, almost 40 electricians. So there's going to be daily testing. We're sort of quasi bubbled. A lot of my team is staying in a hotel in Times Square. We're going to be. We have a compliance officer, I think, actually in every department. And then for the show itself, obviously, we're restricting the amount of crowd in the area to little pens of pre-tested and bemasked spectators. I've been literally going to be like 4 people in the broadcast truck. I've been kicked out and relegated to a storage container of some sort over there, and we're going to be. I think we're still trying to sort out how the departments are going to intermix, because it's a quite confined tight space because of the way we're contained by traffic and whatever. So it's there's still a lot to sort out, I think.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. Sorry about that.
Yes, I've turned you off.
We have an extra guest here.
Well, we just had a surprise Suri.
Yes, exactly.
Or Alexa.
I don't know what I said. Set her off like that. But
a follow-up to this, and I think I know the answer to this, but did anyone consider, for safety reasons, not doing the job? Paul, was that a consideration for you?
Well, I always consider not doing the job, but not for health reasons. Just
or different health reasons.
Stressful, likely. And I wonder every year if I still have it in me to manage it. No, not really. I mean, I was more anxious. I mean, we didn't really have an official green light from all of the government entities really until Monday. I mean, it was a little tenuous. Honestly, the last gig that I completed to opening night was New Year's Eve last year. So I really needed this to happen. So there wasn't really, I mean, I'm pretty confident in what we're, what we're going through. So.
Chris, did you have hesitations? Were you all in right when they called you?
I wouldn't say I was all in. I was actually quite surprised that it was going to happen. So I assumed that we would do a lot of work and then find that local, state, or national rules would prevent us from doing the thing. Moving forward and getting closer and closer and closer was kind of a giddy thing. Like, oh, we're going to do this show. So I was terrified, but in.
Yeah. Darien?
Well, I mean, I actually got lucky being here in Nashville, and with the vendors that we have, everybody shipped all the gear directly to my house. When I say shipped, I mean they just dropped it off. So I was able to set up in my house. My wife was a little annoyed that I took over the other bedroom, but
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to actually do all of the work. And then Bobby Grays, one of the other designers, he had the same thing. He is up in Kentucky. He was able to get the rest of his stuff done up there.
Amazing.
So when it's all said and done with, showing up on site was already such a controlled atmosphere that we're kind of set up from the beginning to be successful, which is good. Yeah.
Michael, did you have doubts?
Not at all. The way our HR department set us up and the protocols they set in place, I was pretty confident.
Cool. Darien, I mean, it's a if technology weren't the way it was, you wouldn't have been able to do this. And we talk a lot on the show when we have lighting designers on about previs and how well or not well that works or doesn't work. But it sounds like that's the only way this actually worked. Is you were able to sit in your house and put the show together.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for all of us, I mean, the fact that we have Zoom calls, the fact that we have the rest of the things at our disposal is pretty great. I mean, we also, I mean, two guys that I work with, I know I've said their names, but I mean, consistently on not just this, but lots of other projects, is Tony and Bobby. And so we're so used to our actual workflow at this point, where when it comes time to combining show files and putting something together from a distance, we're kind of used to it.
Yeah.
We've just been forced into that for a while. So it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Amazing. So, Paul, let's go to you for this. Are you altering the design because of COVID? Is that something that is changing because of COVID, or are you designing the show the way you would any year?
It's mostly the way we would. I mean, there are some issues with required COVID spacing on stage with artists and their backline and dancers or whatever. We have to limit the number of people on stage. So that limits, well, it affects what we can put on the deck or how many people we can have on the deck to do changeovers between numbers. So that sort of falls into the usual sort of stuff that we figure out every year anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's changed very much. I mean, we are accustomed to have done a lot more on the street, maybe on the red steps or amongst the crowd, which we're not doing this year. So actually I got to eliminate a little bit of gear that was, dedicated to that, but not so much. I think what happens on our little footprints is kind of what it is.
Cool. Chris, how about you? Is the design different because of COVID? I mean, I know you changed the design as you said, but
Sure.
Any modifications because of the pandemic?
Ever so slightly, honestly. We put some fewer pixels up than we had in the past. We've slowly increased the quantity of pixels on the building every year, except for this year. COVID wasn't the only influence, though. The location on Fifth Avenue in an election year with Donald Trump running is kind of complicated. In 2016, when we put the show up, we would lose work because of riots and protests moving up the street. So there were a lot of plans put in place for losing time to possible COVID problems, people being sick or other restrictions from the city, and then ultimately preparing for election day. So most of Fifth Avenue was boarded up. That kind of stopped our work. So in planning for COVID and planning for the election, the show was scaled back just a bit.
I see. As an explanation, Saks is very close to the Trump Tower there on Fifth Avenue.
Correct. So Saks Avenue is at 50th Street on Fifth Avenue.
Right. That makes sense.
For all the non-New Yorkers like myself in Vegas.
Right. That's why it's not like miles away where there's protests all over the place.
Right. Manhattan is burning, but
that's right. Saks happens to be like right next door to Trump Tower.
Okay.
We would see it coming up the street in 2016 and have to stop, bring the lift down, bring it down, pause.
Michael, did you alter? I mean, the show is obviously altered because of COVID. Was the design altered? I mean, how much did that change, or was the approach similar?
It's hard to say. This year, I mean, everything is videotaped, whereas everything will be on the sage.
So it's very different.
And it's very different.
Yeah, yeah. And Darien, you've never done it before, so it's different.
Well, I mean, yeah. The whole event was designed for COVID. It was designed for this particular purpose. I mean, the only reason why we brought it around for the holidays was because of the success of Tempo. I mean, it's something that obviously appeals to everybody in a lot of different ways and is COVID compliant.
When you did show up to the Speedway, were you surprised with the crew size, or was it just, were you expecting it? Like, was it not normal to a normal tour? Like, with the amount of, were more people doing different things?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say definitely. I mean, given that aspect, we're definitely a lot less. I mean, we don't have the standard load of stagehands that we would normally have. I mean, especially out here, you're also seeing a lot of crew of.
So were you hanging some lights, Darien?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, on this one, I was out there. I marked up the entire site on the front end and helped place truss towers. I mean, I'm with the guys every day. We're doing quite a bit of stuff. I mean, Gallagher has Ty Trussell here in town. Who's running Gallagher Nashville, has had a huge hand in this one. Kind of bringing the whole thing together, and he's had his guys out here nonstop. I mean, they put the entire the pyramid, what we call it, in the middle. They put that whole thing. They engineered it as a whole massive piece, in addition to the kinetic ball tunnel. And so, but I mean, they're still. It's. I mean, they would normally run a crew probably 3 times the size.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's definitely pushed a little bit and stretched a little bit thin.
Yeah. And Chris, what about you? What was? I mean, you've been doing it for so many years. Was the crew completely different, and everybody had to take on different roles, more roles?
No, this is the only project I've worked on this pandemic that didn't change in size. It's already a really tiny crew. So our work mostly takes place overnight. We're kind of doing graveyard shifts. So it's in double time, and already had it as small as possible.
Okay.
Who's the electrician for that, Chris?
So there's a team from Forwall. Manny Ramirez leads it up, and then Jeff Collier is with us. And then as far as like the actual electrician from the rigging side, it's a company called AMA, and they do signage in Times Square. So they're the people that are riggers.
Right.
Time.
Not really theater electricians.
Right. So they partner up to cover all the bases.
Right. And Paul, how about you? Are you guys going to go in with like skeleton crews or how's that going to work?
Oh, I hope not. I think
I'm just causing Paul more stress.
Exactly. We have a lot of guys that are on Broadway shows that then come and spend their overnights with us after their show is over and they're out the door. So with no shows running, I don't know what the situation is going to be like exactly. But we have it's a challenging environment and an extraordinarily limited amount of time. And if the weather doesn't cooperate, I mean, we can't really. There's not really a way to sort of scale back between staging and electrics and video and everything. So I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, we'll have you back on, and hopefully, you still have all your hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, what about you? How's it over with you?
Everything's pretty much shot already, video-wise. It's just being edited at this point. So
right.
And Paul, how about your team? Is your team of assistants and programmers, will that be smaller, or are you going in with the same complement?
I think it's the same complement. I might have one tiny issue with someone who's actually on my payroll that is a personal assistant that manages my script and things like that. There's a little bit of a complication because of the COVID testing and insurance and stuff like that. But I pretty much have the same folks, the same complement that I always do.
Who's going to turn your pages now if you can't have your...
I just tear them out of the book and I throw them on the floor as we go.
I know.
It becomes confetti. That's what the confetti is.
Exactly.
I did something like I did a thing a few weeks ago, probably a month ago or so now, a video shoot, and they said I couldn't have an assistant because of the COVID numbers, and it's the first time I've worked without an assistant in 15 years. But somehow the job got done. Somehow. Chris, was your team smaller?
It was not. No, I brought the same folks. We did it kind of the exact same way.
Yeah.
We really couldn't get smaller.
Yeah. And Darien, was the size of your team affected by COVID, or would it have been the same if there were no pandemic? Just the design. Your small team.
Yeah. I would say the size of the team didn't change only because we all are again accustomed to working in this format already. With Eric dealing with us primarily through Slack and primarily through other calls and things like that, we're able to kind of all get the info. I mean, his business partner, Gordon, was handling a lot of the content. And so the content team was all working in their respective roles. And we utilize a lot of tech to be able to kind of all to come together as a team. And then when it's on site, I mean, we're able to all, again, work in our separate cells. So it's okay.
Yeah. Michael, how about you? Was the size of the design team different? Or does it take that many people to do it?
Well, I think because of COVID, we had this is the first time we've actually had someone editing the video in a different state. So we had 2 guys doing animation and editing, and we shot everything in New York. So I'm still waiting to see the final pieces put together.
Right. Yeah.
And when it comes, I guess this will be a question for everybody, but when it came to getting gear, or whatever you were using for the show, was that harder or easier this year If anybody wants to take that one, Darien.
Yeah, it was pretty hard.
Okay.
I mean, when you're trying to accomplish something like this, and the timeline, etc., we've got not necessarily a lot of gear, but we do have a pretty significant amount. I mean, spread over a lot of ways. So we've got, I think we're up to 6 different vendors at this point.
Okay.
Providing from everything from the network backbone to multiple vendors on lights, and then audio, and then video. The whole thing had to be spread just because the holidays, shockingly enough, while no one was really working in live music, the holidays actually brought back quite a few gigs for a lot of people, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
it is nice.
Yeah, and Chris, how about you? Was the lights that you guys were going to hang up? Did you already kind of, or at least the LEDs, were those already ready to go for, like,
Yeah.
they're probably ordered year in advance, or?
Correct, and most of them were things that existed in years past, so they're just refurbed over the season. The surprise was kind of like webcams. All of a sudden, you can't get a webcam in the pandemic. Network gear was a bit of a challenge. We did a network upgrade, and getting equipment to show up had just a painful lead time. It was slow.
Ring lights. Can't get ring lights.
Right, no ring lights. So there are no ring lights on Saxford Avenue because everyone else decided to buy them.
Yeah. Good to know. And Michael, as far as gear for you?
We pretty much invested in a very sizable lighting package after renting from Four Walls for like 20 years. We bit the bullet, and we pretty much have every fixture we need in the sanctuary. Rose Brand, I just rented some curtains, and they were open, and I got it the next day. So
Next year you'll hire a lighting designer, and they'll rent more stuff because that's how it happens. There's always.
I know that. Yeah, I realize that.
Well,
I just bought 100 lights. Yeah, but I need 2 more. Sorry.
Well, speaking of, since you already had a house rig, Michael, were there any issues with the lights or anything? Like, did you had to send them to tech or anything like that?
No, it's only about a year and a half old, the rig.
Oh, okay.
So
cool. And Paul, are you reaching out to Al for?
In 20 years, our show has been at various times come out of many different shops, and we for the last several years, our relationship with Four Wall has been awesome. This year, I've sort of completed a transition to 100% IP64 or better rig.
Cool.
So that's presented. I'm looking forward to the stress that will eliminate on the day of the show, but it does present some challenges. There's not always as many options in IP64 gear for the things that we need things to do. So there's definitely ebb and flow and substitutions and adjustments and compromises that we make to sort of accommodate that priority. But the bulk of our show, at least now going forward, is going to be sort of what it is. Sort of the meat and potatoes of the rig remains largely the same. So we haven't had any problems yet, but I don't know. I haven't talked to Al today, so.
Paul, can you briefly explain what IP64 is for people who don't know? We have some non-lighting designers who watch our show.
And somebody will jump in and correct me if I get this wrong. It's a scale. It's a rating system for the degree of waterproofness and particle proofness of a lighting fixture. And the 2 numbers, I forget which is which. The first number refers to maybe water, maybe.
Well,
the number, the more resistant it is, and the second number is for.
We put together a IP65 or an IP rating blog on the Lighting Lounge. Luke, if you're watching, comment it, and if anybody wants to learn about IP ratings, we have.
I should learn about that. All I know is IP64 is the number I'm shooting for.
The quick summary is IP is ingress protection, and the first digit is about solid, so dust, and the second digit is about water.
There we go.
See, once again, I've learned something on the show.
We have periodically, because it's sort of rain or shine, and if it's 30 below or a blizzard or a hurricane, we do 5 hours of live television, and the guys are amazing, crawling the truss between shots and replacing gear, replacing moving lights on the truss. But it also means in the past we've had some astonishing repair bills for blown up. Astonishing. So
There it is. There's the article. IP ratings. There it is. So thanks.
I'm
Luke.
so
Hey, Paul, can you tell us what you landed on? What gear is planned for this year? For it's all IP rated?
The biggest challenge, like we went. Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me look this up because the biggest challenge has actually been big open face LED wash units.
That's the challenge. That's a challenge all around.
The other, we're using Proteus Hybrid Maximi as sort of our primary sort of profile light, which actually we used last year. Part of the challenge is Times Square every year becomes ever brighter with LED billboards and signs. So we're always trying to stay kind of ahead of that, not to overpower it because we're kind of embracing the environment that we're in. But we have on our principal stage, there's a giant 3-story tall billboard just off camera right. I mean, literally 25 feet away, that we have no control over that content. So the challenge has been in the past finding IP gear that was bright enough, fit in with our power budget, was of sufficient lightness that we could cram enough stuff on these trusses. It's a bit of a Chinese number puzzle.
Well, we should do a follow-up. Drew, I don't know. Drew, maybe you can do one of your Thursday, bring back the Thursday to talk to Paul about what he did and how it all...
I'll research what I did because at the moment...
Yeah.
So I was talking when we talked about doing this show, I talked about Vegas is blowing up a 2020 sign for their thing. Is there anything, any 2020 explosions happening, Paul?
I hope not.
Not on purpose.
We're gonna drop the ball, some pyro. We're gonna do some confetti, and same old jam.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll be home watching. That's for sure.
Indoors, how nice. I'm a little envious, Michael, and everybody that has indoor gigs. Someday I want to graduate to like a nice, warm indoor gig.
And I don't have rapper.
All right. Well, it's time for my favorite part of the show.
Jeff's Roundtable Rapid Fire.
With the rapid fire, I'm going to say this because every week we do it, and it's not a rapid fire. People do a little longer answers, but this is a 2 to 5 second answer. So when Jeff, let's do it. And
The gauntlet has been thrown down.
We'll go.
We didn't pick an order. Oh, no.
Well, we're going to do it we're going to do it live here. So it'll be Paul,
Okay.
Chris, Michael, Darien.
Okay.
So
Great.
Paul's up. Actually, let me go to. And this little action that I'm doing right now, I didn't mention it last week, but Al Rodella figured it out, of all people. So thank you, Al. All right, let's go, Paul.
Paul, what favorite thing to do when you're not working? Do you have a hobby?
Play with my new dog.
Chris.
Travel.
Michael.
Cooking.
Darian.
Fly airplanes.
Wow.
Ooh, these are all great.
Ah,
You guys nailed
that's a
the
winner.
hobby question. Darren, sticking with you. Best advice you were given by anyone?
Ooh, stay humble.
Michael.
There's always room to learn.
Chris.
Know what you're asking for. Understand the scale of your request.
Sorry. Paul.
Always go to the party.
Say that again.
Always go to the party.
Always go to the party. Well, I feel like I was a student of Brian McDevitt's, and I feel like he said that's why he got into the business in the first place. And anyone who knows Brian would see. I'm slowing us down now. Paul, something that excites you about what you do?
I like the people part. The not just the collaboration with the audience, but with the rest of the team is what's exciting.
Chris, something that excites you about what you do?
Always different.
Yes, Michael.
I affect people's lives.
Yeah. Darien.
I mean, honestly, the moment the house lights go down, there's nothing like it. The electric roar of the people, it's a big thing. I look forward to it.
All great answers. Sticking with you, Darien, least favorite thing you have to do as part of your job?
Politics.
So true. Chris.
Budgeting and presenting the fee.
Michael.
Politics.
We're allowed to reuse answers. That's okay.
Yeah.
Collaborating with the rest of the show. I'm kidding. Politics, I think, yeah.
Staying with Paul, an innovation that has made your job easier. Clearly, we're still looking for giant open face LEDs, but an innovation that has made your
IP65 rated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
say that one more time. Sorry.
in general, and Zoom calls.
Zoom call.
Yeah. Chris.
Team viewer and the like.
Yeah. Michael.
Video mapping. We lost our fly space in our church, and I'm able to recreate everything in the room with video mapping.
How did you lose your fly space? Sorry, again.
This was an old vaudeville theater that the Three Stooges actually played on. Wow. So when we bought the building, we renovated and we put office space above.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Darien.
Not pictured here, but the MA Lighting International Grand MA3 console is definitely the best thing that's happened this year.
Was that great? Sticking with you, something that has gone away that you miss.
Live shows, definitely.
Paul, something that has gone away that you miss.
Par 64s.
Par 64s. We can still sort of get them sometimes. Chris.
I'm with Paul. Big tungsten rigs.
Michael.
People.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's been a tough year.
Nice.
Darren, did you already answer this question?
Yes.
Sorry, I messed up your order. We'll go back to Paul so I don't mess it up. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul, favorite part of your job?
The people part, for sure.
Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, the people. Definitely.
Michael.
People and getting to do so many different things.
Darren.
I think the dreaming, when you spend months dreaming with people about an idea and bringing a concept together, and then when you finally get to actually present that concept to the world, that moment is definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. Great. Sticking with you, Darren, something you recently watched on TV or streamed. What are you streaming? What are you binging?
Well, actually, my wife and I just finished Queen's Gambit. That was interesting. Very interesting. It was good, though. I enjoyed it.
Good. I recommend. Michael.
Queen's Gambit. Game changer.
Paul.
Oops. I watched The Prom last night, which was, I thought, lovely and very emotional at this particular moment in time.
A plug for The Prom. I went out of order. Sorry, Chris.
I'm going to feel bad about this after, but I just binged Big Mouth.
Oh, yeah, I love Big Mouth.
Next up is Speakeasy On Demand. Some friends produced this thing, and then also Sing Your Hallelujah. Some other friends did this streaming content.
I love it. Let's stick with Chris because you said travel. First place you want to travel to post-COVID.
I've never been to Italy, so I'm done not being in Italy. I'm going to go.
Go to Italy. You should go to Italy. There's so much of Italy. Where do you want to go?
I don't know. Is there good pasta in one specific place?
Oh, it's really hard. Read about it. I was told, just as a side story, my wife and I went to Italy and we were told that we couldn't get a bad meal. That is not true. You can get a bad. Definitely do your research. Paul, first place you want to travel?
Not a joke. Literally anywhere.
Yeah. Michael.
Don't know if you guys ever been here, but Grenada, West Indies. My brother owns a house in the mountains, and it's surreal.
Amazing.
When are we
Well,
going?
I'm gonna stay with my brother.
Let's go. Darien, where do you want to travel to?
I would say, in terms of vacation, probably Greece. Back in February or January, my wife and I actually went to the Maldives right before everything shut down. So I feel like we got lucky in getting kind of one last trip in there before it was done.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. in the home stretch here. Darien, what do you miss most about live entertainment being shut down?
The consistent work, for sure.
Michael.
Just the feeling of producing and creating.
Yeah. Chris.
I miss meeting the team at the bar or restaurant after a long day.
Good one.
Paul.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the work and the income, but I really just being with the team and my colleagues and my friends it's terrible not having that.
Yeah, that's why we all do it. I mean, I feel like that's why we ask so many people on the show why they got into it, and it's to collaborate, to be with people, and Zoom's just not doing it for me.
Yeah.
Well, rapid fire officially over, but we're also quickly approaching the end of our program.
Yes.
So, Paul, we're going to stick with you. And what have you been up work aside? What have you been up to during the shutdown? Anything you ignored that you're finally getting to or want to get to? Are you cooking something you never cooked before? Develop new hobbies?
It's kind of gone in phases a little bit. 8 or 9 years ago, I bought a house in the Catskills, and by house I mean it's 100-something-year-old log cabin in the woods with a guest house. So I'm learning to be a homeowner and to tend to a structure that is basically constantly trying to fall apart around me. I've done the cooking thing. I'm not an amazing cook. I was like, there was a couple months of bread baking and
we all did it.
now I just heat something up or have a cold bowl of cereal at night. I'm kind of really getting into the house thing and learning a lot about log homes and honestly I'm turning into that guy. Like having a dog has been a big deal for me. A lot of hiking and a lot of time with that. It's been good.
That's great.
So yeah,
you should post home improvement videos. That'll be your new.
That'll be my new.
Michael, how about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I own my home is 1870. It was built.
Wow.
I've got 3 working fireplaces. I converted 2 of them from wood to gas, which is more efficient. And pretty much I installed a hot tub in the backyard.
All right, we're coming to Michael's house.
Just one note: since we were locked down in March, we were in the middle of a major audio install. So basically, I haven't stopped working. We just put in a monster EAW rig in our building, and Claire Solutions did the integration. So been pretty thankful that I've been kept busy.
Yeah, that's great, and it's nice that it's nice that someone's doing something still, working on a project, improving anything ever. I'm always impressed when anyone improves anything, so that's great. Darien, what have you been up to?
Well, we had a baby girl in May, so I'm learning how to be a dad.
How you doing?
I'm finally sleeping. I'm
Great.
finally able to actually go do other things and not be stressed out about it. But yeah,
Great. You and Drew can talk offline all about that, I think.
Yeah. When we did our tech check earlier, you saw my babies in the carrier.
I did. Yeah.
Like every Zoom call, they're like, Drew, does that baby just live on you?
I immediately thought, when I saw that, I went, been there. That's just not at this moment, but everywhere else.
I will say, even if I'm not doing a video call with Drew, there's always the Drew's baby is very chatty, so there's always like a little soundtrack that I wonder if sometimes he's commenting on the things we're saying.
That's
like,
funny.
no, don't have that guest. He'll be a terrible guest.
I love that.
Chris, how about you?
I've been getting out. We spend so many times overnight outside, darkness, in dark theaters. I'm finally getting out a little bit. So I've been to 3 national parks. Oh, thanks, Drew.
Yeah.
I've just been trying to see things that are within a safe drive away that I can stay away from people.
Cool.
Did you do that when you went to Zion? Did you do the river walk in Zion?
No, so we got pretty far in and then we kind of stopped. It was the end of our day and it was we were not prepared.
Yeah. Okay.
Drew, did you do that walk, the river walk?
I did.
It's beautiful.
Did you rent the shoes?
I did.
So did I.
So Zion is great, but Bryce Canyon blew my mind.
Oh,
it was
great.
so amazing.
We were talking about vacations. That's to anyone interested in vacation opinion, that's a great one to take. The national parks out there, beautiful.
Yep.
At some point, you got to do it. Okay, last question. We're at the end. Michael, let's start with you. What advice would you give to people who want to do what you do?
Well, I wear many hats at the church. Drummer, I do some lighting, sound, video. I think the biggest thing is if you're going to do it with all your heart.
Great advice.
Don't do it. Don't shortchange anyone or yourself. And there's always room to learn.
Darien.
Oof. I mean, coming from someone, I didn't go to college for this. So, I mean, it kind of, everyone along the way has given me a leg up. So, I mean, I would say find people that you trust and that you believe in and that believe in you and latch onto them. And if there's anything that they can give you, they will, and just hold on to it because that's going to be the thing that brings you forward.
So is this is childless Darien here?
That's first of all on a Jans. That's a good throwback there. Yeah, I come from a long line of people giving me first, second, third chances. So that's good.
Awesome.
Great answers, both Michael and Darien. Thank you. Chris.
I think the answer is see everything. Specifically, try to form an opinion about why you like it or hate it. I don't mean armchair quarterback and crap on all the people doing work you don't like, but it's important to form an opinion and understand what your aesthetic is.
It's another great one. Paul.
I gotta say, my heart aches right now for young people, maybe just getting out of school, that find themselves in this strange place that we're all sort of in, where there's not a lot of work. So it is so important, I think, to keep connected to people that do what you do, even if you can't work, to at least talk about the work or the work that you want to do, and connect with your peers or the people that have come before you, until we can create opportunities again for people to learn and be with us.
Also a great answer and so true. And this
Paul,
is,
are you saying always go to the party?
And always go to the party.
Always go to the party.
Speaking of parties, we're having a 4-wall Sunday Roundtable Christmas party next week on the show. So you guys are all invited back for that. I hope everyone tunes in for that too. We'll have some of our guests coming back to check in with them and give us their New Year's resolutions. You guys are amazing. I will say that to just adding on to what Paul said, there's a lot of designers are sitting at home right now, and many of them will, take your call or return your email and don't mind having that little chat. So this is a great time to catch people between things. That has come up a lot on this show too. So when you see Zach's, give Chris a shout and tell him how much you love it. Don't forget to tell him how much you love it. That's important also.
Please, only positive praise.
He's not going to write you back.
Don't take his advice and tell him what you think he should change.
Yeah.
But honestly, thank you. This entire panel, this episode was great. I've learned so much about everything that you folks do for work. And it's been my pleasure to sit down and talk to the over 90 people about this, and it's been such a great learning experience. So the fact that myself, who's not a lighting designer, I'm a marketing guy, has learned so much in these last 9 months. I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate everything that you all do. And with that said, that's it. That's the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next weekend for a kind of Christmas episode that Jeff's kind of talked about, just kind of wrapping up the year.
A little holiday wrap-up show.
A little holiday wrap-up, little Happy New Year. See you later. Sayonara. Good riddance 2020. And we hope you guys can join us. And people, the viewers, if you want to join us too, make sure you are dressed in your I'll have a different Christmas sweater, but it'll be fun. So thanks again.
I wear my Christmas button down.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone.
And, we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.